what are some of the personal issues that you think women have in terms of seeking out those leadership positions?
Well, and again, I mean, you'll relate to this. Childcare, I think, is a huge one. And not only the childcare, actually, not only the practical, I think deeper than that. I think that, certainly, I mean, I grew up, being very ambitious, but being very maternal. I mean, I knew when I was a little girl, I had a very clear vision about the fact, I wanted several children. And trying to balance that identity on the one hand of being a mummy, and then on the other hand being a high-flying businesswoman, bringing positive
Can you do it all?
transforming the universe. There's 24 hours in the day, and if you're going to be the best parent you can be to your children, wherever that is pitched, that inevitably is going to impact on the mental kind of commitment you're persuading yourself you can have the bandwidth to engage in leadership position. Now, I mean, I've always been really lucky in that respect, because the kids have always been very supportive of me. They've sort of seen me working from when they were young, and they kind of get that's an important thing to me, as is being a parent. But yeah, I think that's a huge challenge for women in terms of seeking out leadership positions.
I think that's, you are right there in terms of when you have where are your priorities? Where are your priorities? And one of the things that I have been looking at is, where do we put our priorities as women? So in terms of, in my case, if you have children, you and I have children, so that will play a big part in terms of our decisions and what we do. But there are women that don't have children. There are women that have support. I've always, in my life, I've always been married, and in terms of my first marriage, it was more of a balancing act of, we had to find somebody to help, because I've always been, career orientated as a woman, which sometimes can be one of the things that stops people from moving forward in terms of that battle within ourselves. Is it okay to love my career so much and then have children? Am I being fair to my family? Am I being fair to my children? And every woman is different. But from my point of view, in terms of my, the way I looked at it is, I came from a background where I didn't have much, and I came into the UK in 2001, and starting off where I felt I need to work hard so that my children can have more, and so I put myself out there and gone for things that I've wanted to do most of the times.
But in the last question, you referred to the thing around, we don't always give ourselves the time to stop and reflect on what we want.
Yes.
And I think personally that there is again, there are exceptions, but I think as a general rule, traditionally, there's been a perception that women have placed on themselves that it is selfish to put yourself first.
Yes.
Yeah, that actually, if there are other people that want you, that need you, that takes precedence, and that to put yourself first in that queue is selfish.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge self-imposition of guilt that many women face day in, day out, repeatedly. And I have to say, I mean, I had to make, it was probably about 5 years ago, and it's through kind of my own kind of coaching background, but also, through my own kind of self-discovery and meditation and so forth. I've had to teach myself, I have had to train myself to stop making that mental connection. And, that's where I started to see progress, in my career, because I was insisting mentally, I was detaching in terms of thinking, I could really do with that half hour to do that. And instead of telling myself, no, that's selfish, by breaking that mental connection with enough practice, it was very freeing. And I do think that is it's a tricky skill to learn. And I think people are racked with guilt over it. It's going to be a game changer. I think
it is a game changer. That's the way I've looked at it, because I've always looked at, there's always a way of moving forwards. So sometimes when I'm coaching somebody, and these are, you know, what we're talking about here, these are the things that come out. So somebody comes to me, and most of the times people will come because they're a bit frustrated in their job, or their boss has said, you need some coaching externally to go, you know, to move forward, or they're being prepared for a position. But most of the times it's because they pay for themselves, and they'll come because they feel like they've been working so hard and nobody's noticing the work that they're doing, because somehow a man has been promoted, or somebody new who has come from a graduate program has come now, is their boss, and been in that position for a long time. And mostly the question I ask is, so what have you done about it? What are you doing about it? And usually is, oh, you know, what am I supposed to do about it? They see, because my boss is always giving me a lot more work and stuff like that, because they know I'm competent. So I said, okay, so when was the last time there was a project within your organization and you put yourself forward, not waiting to be asked to do it, but you put yourself forward for that project? And then silence. And then the other question I like asking is, in your current position, you're not happy. How many times, or have you considered moving from that position? So in which case, how many applications have you made in the last 6 months?
Those metrics are really interesting, aren't they? Because I think, again, and I'm not saying that it's something that all women don't approach it with, but I think there's a tendency to see things kind of more kind of, dare I say it, 50 shades of grey, you know, sort of not very kind of clear cut. And actually, if as women, we started to look at the metrics behind the choices that we're making, the reward, the recompense, however that looks in terms of the job we're doing, I think that's true. And also, I think there's another take on what you've just described, because I absolutely am somebody, you know, and that is why, you know, I am in my adult education career, I achieved the top of my game, you know, I was at the top of my field nationally, as long as that role existed, and I'm absolutely determined, you know, that in the future, same with Agile and Scrum, you know, I am going to work to a high level. You know, I've got big goals, I've got big dreams of where I want to take my passion for that agenda, you know, how I want to empower people, bring joy to people's lives, and obviously female empowerment is going to be a really crucial part of that.
It is.
Now the flip side of it is that whilst I am somebody that is really good at multitasking, I enjoy multitasking, I'm used to it, you know, I'm in my career portfolio, out of lockdown, I've got 7 different types of work in my career portfolio, so I'm used to changing context. However, again, I think that is a skill set, that is a journey that a lot of women would have to try really hard to make. I've been on that journey through my own set of circumstances, many of which I definitely, even with the benefit of hindsight, would not have chosen, because it was almost foisted on me. Yeah, exactly. But the flip side of it, and I must give a shout out here to a really dear friend of mine called Sarah Ross. Have you come across Sarah before? No, so Sarah is a burnout coach.
Okay.
And Sarah, in her training and coaching, tells a very, very powerful story about her experience of burnout. She supports people with burnout. And I often think, well, again, I know everybody at some point, you know, is prone to burnout. But if you think about that intensity and, you know, the social and unspoken barriers that women have to work through to challenge the status quo, you know, it's not surprising, is it? It is not surprising that sometimes, you know, you look at a situation and you think, well, maybe be careful what you wish for, because if somebody achieves that, but then they've not got the underpinning coping and resilience skills to sustain that, that's when it can become really dangerous, you know. And again, I mean, I'm very passionate about that because for whatever reason, you know, my kind of personal resilience has always been, you know, hard as nails really. You know, I've just kept going, and I've had that inside me for whatever reason. But a lot of women have not had that journey, you know.
If a woman chooses to be at home, that
Mm-hmm.
is okay. Let's just put it
Absolutely.
out there that we're not saying all women should go out and work and all women
Oh
should go
no.
out and, but if a woman decides to be at home, that's fine. If they decide to be in a lower position because that's what works for them,
Yep.
some women don't need to do that. That's
Yep.
okay as well. But what we're
Mm.
talking about today is women like you and me, women who are hungry, women who are ambitious, women who want, it's okay to want a career and a
Yeah.
family. It's okay to have children and have a career.
Yeah.
Well, Susannah, it's been lovely chatting with you, and keep chatting. Let's keep educating each other, and let's keep supporting each other.
Fabulous.